smell that? Napalm, son. Nothing else in the world smells like that. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Hello, everybody, and happy Veterans Day, and to all my brothers and sisters who served, my brothers in arms, and sisters in arms too, I guess. Happy Veterans Day to you too. Thank you for your service, and God bless you. This is Veterans Day. This is a day that we honor those who served in the past. Not those who are serving now. Veterans are those who once served. There's Armed Forces Day for those who are serving now, and there's Memorial Day for those who've gone on. To all you warriors out there, all you brothers in arms, even those of foreign services, I just want to say, God bless you, brothers and sisters. God bless you. Okay, I'm going to tell you about my service to in the military, and try not to ramble on too much. I seem to talk a lot. Probably why I'm a preacher. Gift of gab or something. I don't know. But anyway, when I was 17 years old, I joined the National Guard. I was still in high school, and I used to drive by the armory and see all the equipment out there, and I always liked it. My dad, he had served in the National Guard, so I told my dad one day, I said, I would like to join the National Guard. When I just turned 17. I've been 17 for a few months, and he said, well, if you're 17, you can join with my permission, parents' signatures. I went down to the armory and talked to them, but off and on, hesitated, and this was in October of 1979, and then around December, I went to drill with them for the first time, and hung out with them, and then they had a Christmas party, and at that Christmas party, I got sworn in and joined the armed services, and it took a couple days to put in the paperwork. So my enlistment day was December 25th, 1979. And then January I went, and I drilled in my civilian clothes for till actually I went to boot camp, which was that following summer, right after high school ended. I mean, it was more like, I got out of high school, and for the school year, I was a sophomore, or no, I was it doesn't matter. I can't remember back then. I was senior, but anyway, I wasn't a senior yet, and so I went to boot camp. It's like, got out of school, I think it was a Monday or Tuesday, and by Thursday, I was on a plane on my way to Fort Dix, New Jersey. I flew into Philadelphia. They picked us up at the Philadelphia airport, and they took us to boot camp. And that was a rude awakening, trying to adjust to military life. Boot camp is hard because you're not used to that life. And it's trying to train you, it's to build you up, and they tear you down and they build you up, and there's a whole science behind it, and a lot of people couldn't make it through boot camp. I made it. I made it just fine. They used to call me my drill instructor called me the Brasso Kid, because one day I was trying my brass, and I just smelled the rag that I was using. Some guy's like, he's sniffing Brasso. Brasso's this cleaner you used to clean. I'm like, no, I wasn't. And he told drill instructor. Drill instructor just thought it was funny, and I explained to him what happened. And but from then on, he called me the Brasso Kid, and I was known as the Brasso Kid all the way through. He never called me by my name. It was Brasso Kid, come here. And I didn't really get in trouble in boot camp and that much. I just kind of stayed obscure. I was told to do that, just stay obscure, just do what you're told, listen to what they tell you, and just do what you're told. And so that's what I did. And I, fired an M16. It was really the first rifle other than the 22 I'd ever fired in my life, and then boot camp was over. And, well, we got to go to a Philadelphia Phillies game. Watch the Philadelphia Phillies play the Atlanta Braves at the old stadium there in Philadelphia. The whole entire boot camp class, I think a couple classes were up there with us, and we watched the game. And then that was like the week before we graduated. Then we graduated, and then I went home, and I had my uniform, and then next summer I went to school, and I was going to be a mechanic. But they had this test where you had to hold these pegs and you had to peg them on these circles, and you only had a few seconds to do it, and there was like 10 sets of circles, or so there'd be 20 circles, and you had to get these pegs and go all the way down this paper. And it was a paper on a carbon paper, and so underneath they seen where you're actually hit. And I missed a bunch of times, and they wouldn't let me become a mechanic, and so I got reclassified, ended up becoming a small arms repairman, fix small arms repair. So let's cut the chase. And I served in National Guard for a while, but after about 3 years, I needed to move away at a place where they didn't have National Guard, and they let me out. So I got out early. So I only did 3 months, half of my enlistment. So years gone by, and I end up in college, and I meet my wife, and we get married, and I was working 2 jobs. Well, I was working at a greenhouse that grew roses, and I was a rose cutter, and I've been doing that for a couple of years. Worked a couple different rose farms. I was really good at cutting roses and pruning them and everything, and spraying them for insecticides, all kinds of little things that I did. And that job ended. The company was going under. They started downsizing people, and to make up for it, I had to work 2 jobs. I was working 2 Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I was working at Jack in the Box. So during lunch hour, I was working Kentucky Fried Chicken, and then I had about an hour or 2. I had to get over to Kentucky Fried Chicken to work the other. So I worked lunch, or at Jack in the Box. I worked lunch shift, I worked dinner shift, just to try to make ends meet. And it was difficult. My wife was pregnant. We had no insurance. And so a friend of mine had told the Navy recruiter about me. And so the Navy recruiter calls me. I'm like, man, as soon as he said that, I said, that sounds good. And they could pay for my child being born and all this. I said, yeah, I'll join. So I went down there and took the test, and I failed it. I'd been out of school for a while, been out of college for a couple of years, and I failed the test, the ASVAB test. And I'm dyslexic, so it was a little difficulty, and I didn't get a lot of sleep that night. And so they said, just go a week later and take the test. Well, I went to a bookstore, and they had a book where you could practice taking ASVAB tests. And I practiced every day and upped my score and learned how to take it. Because being dyslexic, time tests, because it's slow for us to read. And so I got to figure out a way to take that test and to pass it and read enough questions to get a good passing grade. Well, my strong point was science. My weak point was math. But I realized if I just did the math questions I known and skipped the ones I didn't know, the ones I could answer right away, and so I did that, because they have fraction ones and harder math questions and easier ones and ones that I'm more familiar with. So I did that in the math. And anyway, I'm kind of trailing there, but I passed my ASVAB so much better than improvement that they're like, well, you couldn't have proved that much on your ASVAB in 1 week. We got to make sure you're not cheating. And they went and made me take it again, and I got an even higher score. And I said, I'm not going to take this again. I didn't cheat, and if you don't believe I cheated, then I guess I can't go in the military because I'm not going to, be accused of cheating. And I didn't cheat, and I didn't. And the recruiter said, I don't believe you cheated either. And they have people watching. He says, there's no way you could cheat. So he said, he talked to him, said, yeah, he kept getting a higher score, and said, but, so I ended up I wanted to go in as a heavy equipment operator. That's what I always wanted to do. But they didn't have any openings for that. When you go in, you have to have whatever, they have a certain amount of jobs that they got. And they said, well, how about being a medic? they had choices of medic and cook and a couple other things. And I said, well, medic might not be bad. I don't know why I picked a medic. Never had an interest in it before. But I scored real high on science, and they said that'd probably be your best. You'd probably be the best at that. So I said, okay. I said, I'll give that a chance. So I told them I wanted to go in as soon as possible. We could put you in this summer. And this is like in January. And I said, I want to go as soon as I can. I said, I'm working 2 jobs to try to make ends meet and barely making it. I said, I'd rather just go in now, And he said, and I don't want to go in the summer with a bunch of high school kids. And so he said, okay. And he looked and said, okay, we'll get you in February. So, like 3 weeks. So after going through the ASVAB thing and everything, within 3 weeks, I was on my way to boot camp. I flew to San Diego. And, went to Navy boot camp, and it wasn't the same as Army boot camp. There was a lot of marching. Navy boot camp was a lot of hurry up to get to places, wait in a big long line, and then take these classes that are in these hot, unair conditioned rooms in San Diego, and try to stay awake in the and it was a lot of classes, and then there was PT, but not like the Army, and a lot of they're really meticulous on detail. I mean, your bed had to be folded perfectly, and your clothes had to be bent, but they were really into that detail stuff. I mean, more than the Army, I guess. But there was differences and there were similarities. But boot camp was over before you knew it. 2 months and it was gone. And then after that, I stayed in San Diego. I went off to Balboa Hospital. There's a naval school there, or Naval School of Health Sciences there. And I went to the Naval School of Health Sciences, and there I studied for, how long was that school? Let's see, February, March, May, April, June, about 4 months. Let's see. About 5 months, I think. It was a long school, a lot to learn. I think it was around 5 months. I could be wrong. It's been, this was like, 1980 or 1990. 89. Okay, 89. So it was 10 years from when I was in the Army. It was 10 years later. 9 years from when I was in school. 10 years from boot camp in the Army. So this is 10 years later, and I'm, did that, and then our class was picked, and I was one. There was only 2 of us that was glad for this. Everybody else was upset. My class was picked to go to FMF, Field Medical School, Camp Pendleton. So we got to go home for a month, and after that month, we had to report to Camp Pendleton. Oh, a lot of the guys were upset. I was like, yeah, but because I was gung ho, I was like, yeah, that's cool, but they didn't like the idea of working with the Marines. But I joined the Navy. I don't want to be against the Marines. What the heck? This ain't fair. But life isn't fair, I guess. Some say that I jinxed the class because I wanted to go to FMF, and they think because I was prior Army that they picked me because they wanted, I had that field experience. But anyway, whatever the reason was, we never know what goes on behind closed doors. We ended up at FMF, and that was a lot of fun for me. I did all kinds of fun. They had these red Kool-Aid. Sometimes we had to be the patient, like the wounded patient. The corpsman would have to come up and treat us. Well, I was a victim of being shot in the chest. That's what they said. Lay here, and you're going to be someone shot in the chest, and they got to diagnose you. Well, I had this red Kool-Aid with my MRE that came with it, and I didn't drink it. And I had canteen water, and the guys running over to me, and they're like, "What's he doing?" And I put the red Kool-Aid in my mouth, and then took a big swig of the canteen. And when the guys treat me, I'm like, and the red Kool-Aid's coming out of my mouth like blood, you know. And this poor guy, he's just freaking out, and the instructor's like, "What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? The guy's gonna die! Look at he's spitting up blood." I bet you this corpsman hated me from that on. He never said anything to me afterwards. Everybody else thought it was funny. I mean, I was like the hit of the class that day, and I was kind of a class clown in that because I enjoyed that school so much, and the camaraderie with the other guys and stuff. Field medical school was fun, and even though it was meant to be hardcore, like their version of Marine Corps boot camp, I had fun. And we'd have to learn how to treat somebody in a combat situation. Although they can't simulate that, they're not going to actually fire at us. So what they did was they had two guys yelling at us conflicting things. We're treating someone, and you have one guy yelling at you, "You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. You know, what the heck are you going to do? You're killing the guy," and stuff like that. And the other guy's like, "Are you sure you do that?" And they're kind of contradicting each other, and it's supposed to confuse you and make you stress. And I was watching them because I was hiding in some bushes waiting for my turn. And I'm looking and I'm watching them doing this. I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to ignore anything they say. So I went up there, and the guy, you know, had to make a splint. You don't have anything, so I had to take a stick and tie it to his leg and stuff. And they're yelling at me, and I'm just ignoring them like they're not even there, and I'm just doing what I have to do. And I passed that with flying colors. I just ignore it. But I guess in a real combat situation, I don't know if I'd be able to ignore it. But anyway, I passed through that school, and then I went to, you know, I went home for a little bit. I got my wife, and we drove to Great Lakes, Illinois. That was where my duty. I was going to work at Great Lakes Naval Hospital in Illinois, right by the Wisconsin border, and right on Lake Michigan. And I was there for about a year and a half. I worked in the medicine ward. I worked in orthopedic ward, and also worked in the emergency room. I was a officer, colonel, female colonel nurse, selected me to go to EMT school. So I went to the nearby Air Force base and went to EMT school and became an EMT. And I was an emergency medic, which, you know, helped along what I was doing. And so when after that, I went to Camp Pendleton, and I was assigned to the 1st Marine Division. And within the 1st Marine Division, I was assigned to the 5th Regiment, which is the they're a flight contingency unit. This thing here, which is the French Protégé, was given to that unit during World War I, so I had the right to wear that. I don't know where I'd wear it, though. I don't wear a uniform anymore, so, but I have it with me, and it's the thing I keep. And I was with the 1st 1-5 weapons platoon. And they're the ones that have the heavy weapons, the mortars and all that stuff. And they always let me play with their toys. And they're like, "Well, you want to fire this machine gun? Sure. If you fire it, you got to clean it." I was like, "That's fine. But you don't know how to clean it." I was like, "Yeah, I do." I did know how because I was a weapons, you know, specialist, small arms repairman in the Army National Guard, so I knew how to fix weapons. So that's what I did. I'll fire any gun they want. I love firing them. I love playing with military toys. And then I was with this unit. We went to the Philippines, and I've been to Okinawa, and I've climbed top Mount Fuji in mainland Japan. And then I got out and missed it, and it was one of the highlights of my life. One of the greatest experiences I ever had was serving in the military. People always thank me for my service, but it wasn't something that I sacrificed because I liked doing it. And, you know, I'm going to be honest with you here. I could say, well, I did this for my country, but you know what, really, I did it? I did it because my wife was pregnant. I did it for my wife and my family. I joined the military for my family. You can look down on me for that or whatever, but that's the real honest to goodness reason. It wasn't because I was over patriotic because I love my freedom in this country. I appreciate my freedom, but I joined for my family.
Keep moving. Is that clear? We're going to attack all night. We're going to attack tomorrow morning. If we're not victorious, let no one come back alive.